So I've been thinking about getting castrated. Sorry, I should probably clarify that. By castrated, I mean having my testicles removed. It's just like I'm almost 40 years old and I feel like I need to get my shit together. If I cut out masturbating alone, there's an extra 10 hours a week I could spend on my magnum opus, a Richie McCraw biopic entitled The Greatest New Zealander Ever. Okay, picture this. We open on Richie, who's flying a helicopter. Next to him is John Key, obviously drunk, giggling like an excited child. Richie lands on the Christchurch rugby grounds. There's a big crowd waiting for them. The two men exit the helicopter and walk over to meet the press, smiling inanely into the flashbulbs. A reporter raises a shaky hand. "What do you want to do if you weren't going to be a rugby player?" he asked the big lummox. Richie's dead eyes stare off into the distance. We cut to 8-year-old Richie on a farm in Oamaru, New Zealand's steampunk capital. One of the Feelers' classic songs is playing. Richie's chasing his sheep, a big dopey grin on his face. His dad watches on from a distance, shaking his head in disgust as his son frolics through the fields. Cut to Richie at 11 years old. He sits in front of a television watching the dog show, barking at the screen. Dad bursts in and Richie quickly changes the channel. The All Blacks are playing. Dad sits down and opens a beer while a single tear rolls down Richie's face. Now Richie's 13. The same awful Fearless song has been playing this whole time. He's at rugby practice, stomping on the head of a smaller player. His dad's there on the sidelines, cheering and laughing, drunk on cheap piss and prepubescent violence. But that night, things take a turn for the worse. Let me set the scene. Interior, night, the McCaw living room. Richie's parents are at the dinner table. The smell of disappointment hangs thick in the air. "But Dad, I want to be a farmer," Richie says, stomping his foot. "I don't think so, shit for brains," his dad says. "It's rugby, you can get a job at the freezing works." "You don't understand me," Richie yells, bursting into tears and storming off, slamming the door. Then there's some teenage scenes like maybe Richie wanking a field or something. Before we know it, he's off to university to study agricultural science, which is like a $10 word for farming. Cue lots of drinking and weird shit that students get up to in Dunedin. Richie really knuckles down and achieves a C average. Everything seems like it's on track, but then Richie's dad forces him to drop out and join the All Blacks. Richie is devastated. From this point on, the film's basically all rugby, mud, Richie looking teary-eyed at photos of farming equipment, men in shorts. I kind of lost interest on this point, to be honest. Anyway, there'll be some sort of character arc, maybe a love interest, a close game which the All Blacks end up winning because no other country in the world gives a fuck about rugby. In the third act, Richie retires and buys a lifestyle block. In the final scene, he's out building a fence with Dan Carter, both men having a great time, making slightly misogynistic jokes and sinking piss. Suddenly, Richie's phone rings. It's John. The two small talk for a bit and then the Prime Minister drops a bombshell. Richie, look, I want to offer you a knighthood for being fucking good at rugby." Richie leans on a fence post. His little rat eyes stare out from behind his sunken forehead as he gazes across the acres of fields. "I'm no knight, John, I'm just a simple farmer," Richie says, cracking open a fresh can of Lion Red. 660 fade in doing a reggae version of the national anthem. The camera pulls out. Richie and Dan go back to building the fence, laughing at their good fortunes. The end. And obviously this is going to be a shitload of work, and to have any hope of doing justice to Richie's great legacy, I'm just going to have to get castrated.